Now, this morning, as I sit here at the beautiful, relaxing Beverly Oasis Suites, I have the privilege of chatting with former Assemblyman Ashworth. Jack, good morning and welcome. Good morning, Mr. Jack.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Right now, the conversation has been happening for weeks since the budget was announced, and we have heard perspectives from all corners of the society here in Tobago. I myself has had the privilege of sitting with a number of persons to chat about it, from the Honorable Senator Lawrence Hislop to or two representatives in the Parliament for Tobago East and Tobago West. Um, and we have heard two sides. We've heard one side, echoing the sentiment that everyone would like to have more. However, it just isn't so. And we've had another side of the argument stemming from the THA and its officials stating that the allocation simply is not enough. This morning, you have come to give us a different perspective on everything and broaden our understanding of this financial allocation for Tobago based on your experience. Tell us a bit about, your perspectives this morning.
Yeah, I've listened to a number of the pronouncements made on the budget. What is interesting is how quickly people's perspective change based on where they sit, and that for me I find a little disturbing. When your organization or your party is in government in Trinidad, there's a different story altogether, and when it is not, or when you're in the Tobago House of Assembly, then you hear something totally different. This is my second go around in terms of this budget. And there's something that I find very disturbing, and in terms of how Tobago is being treated with. And let me just go quickly on a couple of them. For example, everyone who understands how a budget is done knows that your recurrent expenditure does very little in terms of development for new jobs, for new infrastructure and stuff like that. That's more maintenance. It's salaries and wages. It's to buy your stationaries, to pay your rent and stuff like that. So your economy will not grow as a result of that. But when you want to grow an economy, you have to look at the development part of it. And when you have a 205 million development budget, and let's just I want to play devil's advocate. The Office of the Prime Minister's entertainment budget is quarter of Tobago's development budget. The Office of the Prime Minister's travel budget is quarter of Tobago's development budget. So between the travel budget and the entertainment budget of the Office of the Prime Minister, it accounts for just about 49% of what Tobago's development budget is. And that in itself should say something. You're talking about developing an island in terms of its infrastructure and to put in place all the things to facilitate growth. And when you take that into consideration against let's say the spend of 2021, the development spend of 2021 that you still have the outstanding bills for, which was in the vicinity of $1 billion. And then, of course, there was also a situation where the borrowing was exhausted. The $300 million borrowing was almost exhausted. So you have to pay back that. At the same time, you can't take the chance to go and credit anymore because you owe a large bill to the same people, contractors you want to credit from. So that gives us put us in this place of disadvantage in terms of Tobago development. And that in large measure helps to, I'm not sure if facilitate is the right word, but to precipitate the movement of young Tobagonians from Tobago to find a greener pastures.
Right. No, I've listened to the board members in their budget presentation in the parliament, and I believe it was Minister Shampo Lewis who indicated that usually or in the past the THA was supposed to send its monthly reports to the parliament, and that has not been done, its financial reports. Another thing she indicated was that when it comes to the unspent balances from the recurrent expenditure, oftentimes the public does not know how much of that money is returned back to central government at the end of the financial year.
There's no provision for the return of unspent balance. The law is clear. And I want to start with that because that sounds crazy to me that a lawmaker will not understand the THA Act so badly. The law says money not spent in a fiscal year shall remain in the fund and be used in the next year for capital expenditure.
Right. And I believe what she indicated is that oftentimes the public does not know what was remaining in that account.
If that is an issue, because to say the public does not know, does that mean the money have disappeared into some black hole? And I am sure I've heard on a number of occasions the announcement being made, and the government will have the information. So is it that when the government has the information, they don't want to share it with the public? Because if you say the public doesn't know, but you have the information, then you can share it. But there are a lot of things that the public does not know. And if that is the argument for underfunding Tobago, then it tells me a different story altogether. And since we have gone to the issue of the public does not know, could I introduce a couple of things that I think the public should know that the public does not know? For example, we know that there are 4 blocks that have been auctioned for natural gas outside of Tobago. 4 blocks, right? The 2 most famous is the Calypso and Block 22. Is Tobago public aware that when a block is somebody win a bid, they have to pay a rent for the block until the block is developed? So, and it is in a couple $1 million per year. So every year, a couple $1 million US being paid to rent this block before it goes into production. These are outside of Speyside, Shardville, Partivere area. And the question is, what is the rent being paid for that block? Does anyone in Tobago know that? Does anyone in Tobago even know that a rent is being paid for the block? Was there a sign-in bonus when the blocks were given out? Because it's a normal thing. And if there was a sign-in bonus, how much was the sign-in bonus? Who in Tobago knows that? We're talking about the public does not know. Then there's normally donations for work programs to do training and stuff. What is that and who benefited from it? There is also the research and development component that the company also pays to the Ministry of Energy. How much is that? And who benefited from it? And then there's also the gift of equipment, which is like high power computers and stuff. Who benefits from that? And then there's an issue of scholarship, which is written into where you get between 3 and 4 scholarships per block. Have one Tobagonian benefited from that? Have any Tobagonian even know that those scholarships are available? And therefore they can apply for them? Or how are those scholarships given out? Right? So I'm hearing this thing about what people should know and what people should not know. And it sometimes makes me a little disturbed that we cherry pick what we want to talk about. So even in the things I've just spoken about, that in itself would have an impact on the Tobago economy. But yet we are made to feel in Tobago as though we are mendicants, that we come in cap in hand every year begging the central government for money. Take into consideration also, because I've heard it said that Tobago only bring about $200 million in revenues. But that revenue does not take into consideration and makes me wonder if when the issue of the financial rules that have never been approved, although the Act number 40 says upon coming into force of this act within 3 months, the rules must be submitted to the Ministry of Finance for approval. It was never approved. It was submitted on 2 occasions by 2 administrations, yet it was never approved. And so what that takes into consideration and made provision for is every business operating in Tobago should be paying their taxes in Tobago. That does not happen. And therefore it cannot be counted as Tobago taxes.
Right. But we heard the Minister for Finance acceding to the fact that that is the way that it should go, and stated that...
but the Minister has the power to do it.
He said that the revenue, the inland revenue body in Tobago is now being established to facilitate that.
Established? There have always been an inland revenue in Tobago?
No, yes, but...
You're talking about Revenue Authority?
Yes, the
Well,
Revenue
if that
Authority
is the case, then we're in a worse position.
is now being set
Because
up in
the
a way
Revenue
that
Authority,
would help to facilitate
the
that.
Revenue Authority Act does not make provision for the Tobago House of Assembly to collect revenues. So we are regressing. But that being said, and since they know...
From what he has said in his last statement regarding the collection of taxes in Tobago, is that they are setting up the framework for that.
When he became minister last week?
Sorry?
When did the minister become Minister of Finance? Last week?
No.
So it took him 9 years to know.
I believe that it happened because of the conversation between him and the technical advisor, Anselm Richards.
But no, I'm saying that the minister must know who collects taxes where in the country. You can't be reading a budget, making idle boasts, and not knowing who collects taxes. Everybody in this country, Act number 40 is there, and it is clear. It is for years. People have been saying Tobago only bringing this. So how do they know what it brings if there's not a collection agency? Everybody knows you go up to, at first it was in Bacalet. Part of it was up where the Assembly legislature is downstairs, they're called Treasury. And then they built the financial complex. And Inland Revenue have been in the financial complex from the first day it was opened. So is the minister saying that he did not know that Tobago had an Inland Revenue, an office of the Inland Revenue? That doesn't make any sense to me.
I understand. But guys,
but even so, sorry.
We're going to take a quick break right here, and we're going to be back right after this. So we're going to see you soon. To be with this, so I have been here at the beautiful and relaxing Beverly Oasis Suites this morning for Good Morning Tobago, and I'm here chatting with the former Assemblyman, Mr. Ashworth Jack. Good morning and welcome back, Mr. Jack.
Thank you.
Right. Before the break, we were talking a bit about the allocation and Tobago's ability to collect tax here in Tobago. Another area of the allocation has to do with sport and sport development in Tobago. And yesterday, during my conversation with the Minister for Sport and Community Development, Shamfaka Joe Lewis, she touched on the fact that Tobago is supposed to have a Lallan Gordon Fund that young athletes are supposed to be able to benefit from, from all different walks of life to help fulfill some of, the things that they want to do, whether it be travel, training, equipment, scholarships. Can you talk to us about that and the reason why we may not have seen that fund being active for a while?
It's interesting that in one bet you could say Tobago have enough money, when the next bet you say you should have a fund. And the question is where the funding coming from. And I'm glad that the issue of sports and that kind of stuff came up. in terms of funding. Because what we have seen in the last couple of months, and we have seen it especially around this time of the season of government, is you saying Tobago have enough money, but yet ministries in Trinidad are coming to Tobago and doing things that fall under the fifth schedule, which is an admission that you Tobago do have enough money to do all this stuff. Or you're saying we only play in politics. So which one is it? I saw it with agriculture, you see it with sports, you see it with a number of things that are under the fifth schedule. And ministers are coming to Tobago giving out grants and all that. Those grants should be incorporated in the Tobago House of Assembly's allocation. And for that to happen, it's the same thing like the fund. Is it that the government has a line item for the fund like it has for the elite athlete fund? I don't know. And so if that is the case, then why not no action being taken if that money is not in the fund? But I want to just go back to something that we were talking about earlier, and that is about not knowing, but people not knowing. And I want to say this very, very slowly, because I don't think a lot of Tobagonians know. So I will ask you a question, and then I will attempt to provide an answer based on your answer, if that's okay with you.
No problem.
You're aware that there are two major gas fields outside of Tobago that is close to production, the Calypso and Block 22.
I'm aware.
Aware of that. You're aware that the Calypso field, which is owned by Woodside, is expected to produce 800,000 cubic meters of gas per day.
No.
Right? So it is expected to produce in the vicinity of 800,000 cubic meters of gas per day. But what seems to be the world's best kept secret is that the Calypso field have been producing gas for Tobago since 2021. I want to repeat that the Calypso field have been producing gas, and that gas is going on to the Atlantic LNG plant since 2021. And that is a field outside of the Castara Pallitive area. We have been told all the time that Tobago don't have anything. The daily production of the Calypso field as it is today, sorry, the Block 22, as it is today, is in the vicinity of 200,000 cubic meters of gas every day, every 24 hours. Tobago, the gas is passing, go down to the LNG, and go, yet, with all the talk, with all the things that Tobago have not been said and not been doing, not a soul in the government has said, listen, this is what, if that was somewhere in Trinidad, a new field came on, you'd have heard it on every major newscast. Everyone. But no Tobagonian, not even the people in office have been informed that the Block 22 have been producing gas since 2021. But yet people come to tell you what you have and what you don't have, and how people don't know. This is what every Tobagonian should know, because as a Tobagonian, if you have been told that you're not leeching off of us in Trinidad, when you start to make your own money, somebody should tell you, well, okay, this is what is happening at this time. And so when Woodside brings on stream the other field, which is the Calypso, Tobago will be producing out of the Castara Pallitive area in the vicinity of 1.1 million cubic meters of gas per day. I have said for years that we were concentrating on Guyana without looking at what had happened when it was then Petro-Canada had done the initial striking of gas, and the numbers that were being bandied about, which if you look at Tobago population. And all that speaks to the mad rush to try to force Tobago to accept 6% of the budget. Because we know that any changes to Tobago's position takes about 26 to 30 years to get done. So if you accept a 6% of your budget now, the billions of dollars, or in the case of if they bring on stream the other two fields, the trillions of dollars, and they're going to go for a couple of the blocks, that will come to Tobago. Tobago will still only be entitled, based on the law, to 6% of the budget.
All right, and what do you say to the position that although Tobago may not get, let's just say it's just due financially in regards to its percentage in this particular version of the bill, that we should take what is in there and continue fighting for more,
No.
as opposed to staying at
no.
the 4.03 minimum.
And that again was based on population size. And if you tell me Tobago population is now 5.8, then if you're honest, you'll give us 5%, 5.8% of the budget. And then for someone to tell you, is you look at an adult and tell adults, I can only give you 4 cents of every dollar. I know you're entitled to 8 or 10 cents for every dollar, but I can give you 4. So take this. And a couple of years again, we started the same argument. For people like me, this has been going on since I was a child in the late 70s.
But don't you think that an increase to 6.8% that is being proposed is far better than where we are now, and allows for us to at least within the next 5 to 10 years do more while continuing to the fight for more for Tobago, as opposed to going back to ground as opposed to staying at ground zero with the 4.03 and continuing to
fight. That argument, and that for me is a flawed argument. People have to understand what they're entitled to. And someone can't tell you, I'm only giving you this for now, when you know what you're entitled to. So it's an admission to Tobago and that we have no respect for your entitlement. I have just said to this country that Tobago is producing 200,000 cubic meters of gas per day since 2021. But yet, somebody is telling me, it's okay, that's too much for you. Take a 6%. The question is, what will 6% do in terms of bringing Tobago on par in its development with the rest of the country? We will always lag behind because we will be 94% spending less than the rest of the country. Yes, it's a larger place, but then there are certain things that we have been traditionally underfunding. And because we have been traditionally underfunded, there are a number of things that we cannot do. I welcome the airport, and that is not in the Tobago allocation, which is wrong also, because the law says that wharves and airports are the responsibility of the Tobago Council Assembly. But you're building an airport and tell me it can hold around 3 million people a day. But in your budget, there's no provision for how you advertise Tobago between now and the airport opening and in a couple of years after that. Well, we can deal with this fiscal period between now and the airport opening to bring people into the same airport. We have gone back to closing the airport at 9:30. How does that attract additional people? There's a lull in the middle of the day from 11 to about 1, between 1 and 3 o'clock, that you can't get a flight. I went to the airport to go to a brother's funeral last week, and they're locking the ticket door. If you go, say, I want a standby ticket, you have to wait. We're going to sell your standby ticket. Not you'll get a seat, yeah? We'll sell your ticket at this time, and then they stop. And then they give you another hour, 2 hours, and then they stop. You know the kind of pressure that is putting the staff under? Because remember, the policymakers aren't at the office. So the people who are getting abused is the staff. Because they are the ones people are interacting with. All this is happening as a secret is being kept. That Tobago have been producing oil for years, gas oil for years. And I've said to people, anybody, and I challenge anybody to let's do a watch party any night, especially on a clear night, and in the east of Tobago. And if you're a student of geography, you will recognize where Trinidad is compared to where the gas fields are. The oil fields, sorry. On that side is oil, on this side is gas. The oil fields are straight ahead of Belgarden, Goodwood area, straight ahead. Trinidad is all the way down here. But for years we have been told we bring nothing. And everything, even the fields that are now producing and about to come on stream, that is the Calypso and Block 22, then the geographic location is in terms of Trinidad.
What does this new bill proposal propose in regards to the mileage off of Tobago that is defined?
It takes it away. In Act number 40 of 1996, it speaks to a 6 mile, but this new bill takes all away. And all.
So I remember in the last edition of the bill, one of the biggest pushbacks for that bill was the definition of Tobago and the definition of Trinidad. So has that particular area been adjusted in this?
No, it has not been. There's no definition for Tobago. It just sees Tobago as the land space. But if you go to the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, it defines Tobago and it defines Trinidad. It says Trinidad and Tobago shall consist of the island of Trinidad and its dependencies, and the island of Tobago and its dependencies. And I also want to say this, especially to young people. In the modern day of determining the size of a country, countries are no longer determined by their land space. It's determined by the amount of space that around it that comes with the waters around it. And in the case of Trinidad, Trinidad is locked in by Tobago, Grenada, and Venezuela. In Tobago's case, it's Trinidad, Barbados, and out to the African Ocean. So the majority of exclusive economic zones that is brought to Trinidad and Tobago is as a result of Trinidad and Tobago being one country, that Tobago being part of the country. And that is why the Prime Minister could have gone up to Barbados and made a fishing agreement with Barbados on waters that if Tobago was an independent island, would have been Tobago waters. And yet not 8 Tobagonians from the THE accompany them to make that, to find out how it's going to affect the fishermen, how it's going to affect the rest of Tobago. And we're not saying that we shouldn't have agreement with our partners or our neighbors in this case, but we're saying that out of respect for Tobago, because Tobago brings this. But when you have a parliament in Trinidad, and I'm going to tell you part of the reason that I think I hear this all the time. People always refer to Trinidad and Tobago as a unitary state. I'm quite sure you hear it all the time. Unitary means centralized government. The Constitution describes Trinidad and Tobago as a sovereign, democratic state consisting of 2 islands. And it goes on to tell you Trinidad dependencies and Tobago and its dependencies. So even back then, they recognized that the issue of a unitary state was problematic, and therefore did not even want to use it in the framing of the Constitution.
Do you think that a public education campaign on this new bill and exactly what it proposes for Tobago is necessary to move the argument ahead and come to a reasonable middle ground for Tobagonians as this bill comes before the Parliament, possibly before the end of this year or at early 2025?
I think it's absolutely necessary. You can't govern people who don't have information. You can't govern in ignorance. It works for some people, but it doesn't work for the population. Because if someone don't know, then you might have a pushback on what you shouldn't have a pushback on. But you might have acceptance on stuff that really is inimical to the interests of that individual or to the society. And so And the best way to do that is for people to have all the information. But I am I'll be told what we went out and we do all this stuff. One of the things that we have noticed is that we do the same thing the same way, expecting a different result. You ask the average young person to come into this place where everybody sit down in a jacket and a tie and speak down to them, they will not come. And the same way politicians go out and campaign on the road hole for election. There needs to be a way of things. If they know that is the best way to meet you for election, it is the best way to meet you to educate you.
Excellent. We want to thank you so much, Mr. Jack, for bringing these perspectives to the fore and talking about what Tobago should know, specific to some of those gas fields out there in Tobago waters, the Calypso field, as well as Block 22. Now, hopefully we get an opportunity to continue this conversation on what Tobago is producing and its contribution to the national purse at a later date. But for now, we have to round up this discussion because time has run out on us. But we're going to take a quick break and we're going to be back right after this. So see you soon, guys.